Look,
Hello, hello.
look,
Uh,
Hopefully my service holds out. We have huge storms here, and my internet was out just 30 minutes ago, so we're hoping. I have two of you, Sherry,
oh,
but that's okay.
I did that yesterday too, and I don't
Nice.
know how to undo. Hmm.
I'll give just a few minutes.
Is there a way for you to get me out?
Um, I can remove one of them. Maybe? Okay. Well, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. Like I said, I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes for others to join, and the rain is supposed to be letting up, so hopefully this storm will let me finish this. Are you getting storms, Allie? No.
No, it's clear here.
Flash flooding here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's really bad.
That heavy?
Yeah, it's really bad. Well, hello everyone. If you don't know me or haven't worked with me, welcome and thank you for coming. I am going to obviously talk about grief today. It's been coming up a lot in my sessions, and so I kind of read the room as far as what is happening and what is going on with everyone as a collective and what's kind of coming to me. So when I had several subjects that I could talk about, I grief was coming up like in every call and in everything. So I thought, well, let's just go there. So I was actually super prepared, which I normally am not. So I actually have printouts. So I will be looking down at my notes to make sure that I do not miss anything, because normally I'm totally just on the fly and whatever comes out. So I will mix with whatever is meant to come out will come out, but I'm also going to try to stay on my little list so that I don't forget something. So I will be looking down more than I usually do. Again, if you don't know me or you haven't worked with me, I'm Shelly. I'm an integrative health practitioner, and I specialize in grief and trauma. I'm a spinal flow practitioner. I also do energy work. And for those that don't know me, I also host psychedelic mushroom retreats for people that really want to go deep into their work and trauma and things like that. Um, let's see where to start. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for showing up for yourselves. Obviously, you are experiencing grief in your life in some type of way, and we will get to all of those different types of ways that a lot of people don't even realize what they're carrying, or you wouldn't be here. So, thank you for showing up for yourself. And this is not a therapy session at all. This is just me showing what has worked for me, what I see in my clients, what I see has worked for them. And, it's just an open space to learn and feel whatever you feel. And then at the end, I will do a question and answer time if you guys have questions or, even want to share something that came up with you during the call. I have completely changed gears just to give you a little bit of history about myself. I have kind of done it all. I'm one of those serial entrepreneurs, and so I have been a realtor. I was a singer-songwriter. I was my husband's office manager in oil and gas industry, so that was my corporate period of life. And then I had a huge business that was a boutique and an online business that involved a lot of hustle and marketing and all of the things that I got very burnt out on. Um, I had gone to school to be a nurse practitioner prior to the boutique, and then the boutique took off and skyrocketed, and so I never actually became a nurse practitioner. I was 1.5 semesters short, and so it just blew up. And so I decided to go back to medicine, but my love is natural medicine, and so I'm very much about getting to the root. I guess I could add that I also worked in chiropractic clinics for almost 10 years. And so that gave me the foundation of homeopathics, of natural medicine, of chiropractic care, even though during that time I was still very Western medicine and, all the things. I chose to go back into I chose to go back into natural medicine because over the years I developed 4 autoimmune diseases. And so, in this course of all of the years of chronic, very chronic, extreme stress, as well as grief that I'll touch on in a minute, I developed all of these health problems, and it just became one stacked on top of another, stacked on top of another, stacked on top of another. And within 10 years, one autoimmune disease became 4, probably 5, but I didn't bother really doing the testing to get the 5th one diagnosed. So I knew that there was something at the root, and I knew that I couldn't keep outrunning it. I was on 42 pills and supplements at one time, a mix of prescription and supplements a day, taking handfuls morning, noon, and night, sometimes 4 times a day, whatever it is. And so that's what led me back to really finding the root of what is going on. And so at the root of that, what I can tell you is in my program, while it is multi-pronged and I look at physical, we run labs, I'm going to look at your hormones, I'm going to look at your thyroid, and I'm going to get you some symptom relief. What we really tap into is what you're holding emotionally, what you have been through, the trauma that you carry, and all of that. Because while I want you to have some symptom relief, I'm going to hit it from all angles because you cannot heal in a body that is completely dysregulated from trauma and grief and all of the shit that we carry, to be honest. It's just not going to happen. So there's no reason to 100% focus on something physical and you don't address the other. And of course, addressing all of the emotions and the trauma is very deep and it takes time and it's not something that happens overnight. And so I do want to try to help you get relief physically in whatever I can in that too. So we're always going straight to the root. We're always looking at the real cause while I'm hitting it from all angles. And that is how I healed myself. And that's also how I treat my clients. As far as grief, when I was 20, our second son was born with a birth defect that we had never heard of. And we had no clue that he had it. I had multiple ultrasounds. It was never caught. And so he was born at a small rural hospital, couldn't breathe. We had no idea why. And so then it was a mad rush to figure out what the hell is going on. He was immediately transferred. I was released to go with him to a large hospital to have surgery, all of the things, and he did not survive. And my coming from a very traumatic childhood to begin with, I had these very rose-colored glasses at the time of, I am no longer going to live like that. I'm no longer going to live in trauma. I have this happy ever after. I'm going to create this beautiful life that, I don't have to feel sad in or feel depressed in or feel any anxiety. Like that's all behind me, right? Until this happens. And so in that, it completely ripped the rose-colored glasses off and knocked me down. I obviously was not the same person. Not only was I dealing with the grief of in the moment of physically losing my son, but my nervous system was also reacting from all of the trauma of my childhood. So while it wasn't just this loss, while as big as that was, it was big, but it wasn't just this loss. It was all of the shit that had been layered up until that point, and then this just ripped the Band-Aid off. And so I had absolutely no idea whatsoever on how to manage that, how to heal that, how to move forward. I had an almost 2-year-old son at the time that, to be very honest, I really couldn't take care of. I was just like, Bud, go get you some hot dogs or cheese or something out of the fridge. I can't fix you anything. My husband works out of town. He was absolutely not able to be there for me emotionally in any way. Even at that time, like, we didn't talk about it. He did not want pictures of Shelton put up in the house because it reminded him of it. Like, this is just, we need to get our shit together and we need to keep going here. And so it was a while. It was months of me wishing that I would just not wake up in the morning, not wanting to necessarily kill myself, and not that I think that I would really, but it was like, God, if you're seriously there, like, can you just please do this for me? Like, don't put me in that place. But if I could just not wake up in the morning, that would be absolutely wonderful. I did start therapy after becoming pregnant with our daughter. And, I wanted to be as healthy as I could for her. And so months later, I did start therapy and it did help. I also threw myself into religion and church, which I thought was going to give me the relief that I had hoped, and it did not. And I can say that the reason that it did not is because I was not addressing the root cause. So, what I'm going to explain in this webinar is how these things get stacked up, how, when we experience the big losses, what determines how we read those, because there are losses that you have, and you may have already experienced this, but there are losses that you have. Say it was, I'm hypothetically here, say it was a grandfather that you lost, and while it's sad that you lost your grandfather, it's like it didn't really knock you down. Like, it didn't really affect your day-to-day life. You could be sad about it, you could miss him, but it's kind of like it's not affecting your well-being. And then you lose, say, a parent, and now it's like you can't even go to work. Like, you can't function. It completely knocks you down. And vice versa. It could be you lose a parent and it doesn't affect you as much, and then you lose a grandparent and it does. But that grandparent was probably a major key, person in your life. And so what I'm going to explain is it's really about us and where we are and what we are holding that determines how we get stuck or not in grief. So after losing our son, years later, we had basically a double whammy. This was after I had healed from my grief and I had reached the point of what I would call acceptance. I was actually a Texas State representative for the support group for the birth defect that our son had. I was with the Ronald McDonald House and I assisted with bereavement groups. I helped in any way I could, and then I found that I had to step back from that because I was allowing that label of a bereaved parent to be my identity. And so I knew that if I was going to move forward, I could not hold on to that identity, even though that's part of how we hold on to them in our head. But that's what I had to do. And so I thought, you know what? I've healed from this. I mean, I'm at acceptance. I would not go back and change it today because, oh my God, the gifts and the blessings that I gained and how I changed as a person and a human from after losing my son. Like, people do not understand that when I say I would not go back and change it. And I was at that point. So I thought I am fully healed. And then we lost my stepdaughter when she was 23 by a drunk driver. Literally a few months later, my dad tragically died. I had to make the call to not have a life-saving surgery that would have saved his life, which put me in the guilt mode and me carrying the weight of that. And then my nephew was killed just a few months after that, and he was 18. He was actually 10 days apart from Shelton. And so when all of that happened, it again ripped this Band-Aid off, and I became extremely angry. I was just pissed. I was like, God, seriously, like, what the frick is going on? I mean, are you kidding? I had made the reason that I was able to reach acceptance and feel somewhat okay is that I had convinced myself that it was never going to happen again. Like nothing to that level would ever hit me again. Even my doctor was like, it's like getting hit by lightning twice. And you know who I met? A man that was hit by lightning 7 times. I literally wrote my doctor an email like 10 years after, and I was like, please don't ever say that to anyone. But you feel this like when something traumatic happens and you build yourself up to this thought of, well, I'm in the clear now. Like if I can get through this time, then it's never going to happen again. So I'm probably safe. And that's where I had gotten. And I learned really quickly that that was not the case. So in holding on to this grief became anger. It became all of the stages, the denial, the anger, and then also the complete dysregulation in my own body that I had no idea that I was even carrying, right? And so there's an emotional layer on top whenever we experience grief. And then underneath it, it's everything that happens in our bodies, our actual bodies. And first of all, when you're talking about a traumatic loss, and if you have seen, like animals in the wild and even us, how they shake and they tremble whenever they're in shock or something traumatic happens to them. And we don't allow ourselves to do that, even though technically we are animals in a way, right? And so we don't allow ourselves to do that. We don't allow our nervous systems to release what is happening to them. And so it is shoved down. So not only are our emotions about the situation shoved down, but also it is our nervous system reaction about it, and then it's all of our thoughts about it. So you've got like all these layers going on about the grief. So what am I thinking about it? What are my thoughts spiraling? And then it's like, what are the emotions that I'm trying to hold in all the damn time just that I can function? And then it's completely unaware of what is happening in our nervous system, which is just this web of antennas that are completely scanning all of the time, for something to trigger it. And so I want to talk now about the different types of grief. So obviously you have what I call the big traumas, the big losses, which are those people that you love, losing someone that you love. But there are so many aspects of grief that we carry in us, either before, after, whatever those things even happen. So from a very early age, we carry grief for the type of childhood that we wish we had, the parents that we wish we had that we didn't. There's a low level of hoping that something is going to be different, that our lives are going to be different, and they're just not. And there is a grief associated with that. There's a grief associated of losing jobs. There's a grief associated with losing homes. There's a grief associated with divorces, of course. There's a grief associated with losing friendships. There's a grief associated with losing our health and not being able to do the things that we wanted to do. Losing businesses, something happening to our bodies. I mean, these are all levels of grief that are actually not even acknowledged. Like, can you imagine if you called into work and you were like, hey, I need to take off today, because me and my best friend just aren't talking anymore. They would be like, oh, what? There are these things that are just not acceptable to grieve. And yet it is a loss. It is a loss. It causes these emotions in us, and it causes a nervous system reaction, and it causes us to retreat inside. And yet we keep pushing ourselves and forcing ourselves forward, which is just pushing the beach ball down. So every time something like that happens in our lives, it's like pushing the beach ball down, pushing the beach ball down. And it holds such an immense amount of energy to do that. It's just holding it underwater 24/7, and we become exhausted. That's how we become dysregulated in our nervous systems. That's how we become dysregulated on a cellular level. We start getting sick and we don't know why. Autoimmune, cancer, whatever it is. We have carried all of this shit, and it's not just because of grief, but grief is extremely dense. If you look at the vibrational level of emotions, grief is one of the heaviest and densest that there is. And so it lowers the whole cellular makeup of your body. It completely dysregulates your cells. It's not a healthy environment any longer. And so your body is doing everything it can, but it is screaming at you. It is telling you, hey, I need you to pay attention here. I need you to feel this. I need you to process this. I need you to release this. And every time it's brought up, something triggers our nervous system, or something else comes up in life. And even if we overreact to it, generally it's because there are these layers of grief that are underneath it. So if you think back in your own life and you think of these losses, and maybe you've lost someone close to you, maybe you haven't, and if you haven't, then think back to some of these losses along the line in your life. And if you have lost someone close to you in that, then you can see how it's like layered throughout our lives and throughout the years, how it's like maybe smaller, 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 and then a big one, and then smaller, 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 and it's still grief. It's still the denseness. It's still holding it in. It's still putting one foot in front of the other to try to get on. It's like, even if I do therapy, I sit here and I talk about it, and yes, I miss them, or yes, I have this understanding that I just have to go on, and all of the things. But the root of the problem is what we are actually holding in our bodies and how our body is responding. And that is why it keeps coming back to us, and we don't understand. It even has a name: complicated grief, right? It's really not that complicated. It's complicated because it's like, this person has not moved through this at a time that we deem that they should. That is what complicated grief is. But really, it's because I have not gotten to the root of what is really causing my grief. So, I want to talk about some of the ways this shows up in your body. Again, I mentioned autoimmune, but this is chronic tension and pain. It is extremely common to be held in the chest and the shoulders, your lower back and hips. Fatigue that sleep just doesn't fix. You're just tired all the freaking time, and you just don't know why. It doesn't matter how much you sleep. It's like a bone tired that you just cannot figure out. Feeling emotionally flat or disconnected from joy. It's just like, if you look back, there's always a before and after before you experience something in grief. And it's like, there's a clear how I was before, and then this occurred, and then this is how I am after. And can I feel the full breadth of happiness and joy that I felt before this happened, or has that been flattened because of the denseness of grief? Unexplained anxiety, of course, autoimmune flares, digestive issues, and respiratory illnesses. Asthma. I was diagnosed with asthma at 39. Never had an asthma attack in my whole life. I was diagnosed at 39. So when we are carrying this stuff, grief is held in the lungs if you look at Chinese medicine and energy medicine. And so respiratory illnesses are also very common. We try to escape this, right? We don't know how to fix it. We don't know what to do, even if we've done therapy, like I said, and for some reason, it just isn't working, or we've poured ourselves into our faith and our religion. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but I'm talking about that you're not getting the relief that you feel like you're looking for, that you're searching for. Something is missing. And we overwork. We try to numb ourselves. We pour ourselves into projects. Maybe it's traveling. Maybe it's staying gone. Maybe you pour yourself into work. We numb ourselves with alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, gambling. I mean, all of the things. Anything that can take us away from actually sitting in this emotion with ourselves that we don't know what the hell to do with. We try to escape it. We also have difficulty receiving love generally after a big loss. And so after you experience a loss, and I know that was the case with me, it was like, I'm never going to allow myself to be that fully open and love that deep again and have it ripped out from underneath me. And so you will hold yourself back from experiencing love, from experiencing joy, life, and all of that. So what I would like to do right here for just a second is, if all of you could just, if you're called to, you don't have to, but if you just pause right here with me, and I would like to ask you to close your eyes just for a second. And I want to take just a couple of breaths just to calm yourself and just feel into your body, feel into your heart, feel into your lungs whenever you take a breath, and just feel where you're holding tension. And what I would like to do is I would like for you to, with your eyes closed and just feeling in your body, to take yourself back to a huge loss in your life. Like the biggest one you can think of. And I want you to feel where that is in your body. What does it feel like? Where is it in your body? Is it in your chest? Is it in your gut? Do you feel it in your back or your shoulder or your head? Or where do you feel it at? It's going to feel constricted. It's going to feel tight. It's going to feel heavy. Could feel numb. And I want you to feel what that sensation even feels like. And even just in acknowledging it and feeling it, your nervous system might start going, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? You might feel a little bit of anxiousness just in paying attention to it. And then I would like for you to go to what I would call a lower level grief. So if that was your biggest grief, now I want you to remember something that was a lower level. So say if that was a loss of a loved one, then what did it feel like to be betrayed by a friend or lose a friend? Or if one was the loss of a loved one, then what does it feel like to lose a dream home or whatever it is? So go to a lower level grief. And I want you to feel that in your body. Again, where do you feel it? What does it feel like? Is it the same? And just notice it. So the rest of the time that we have together, I would like for you to not deeply focus, because you're going to just come back and focus on me, but I want you to just have the awareness of this in your body. Just the awareness that it's there. This is information. Your body is telling you something. It's telling you, this is where I'm holding this. This is what it feels like. And then it's also telling you, like, am I carrying them the same? Am I carrying them different? So what I would like to talk about now is how we avoid that feeling. As I talked about, we numb, we use things, work, people, substances, whatever it is, to avoid those feelings. But I want to talk about what I touched on for a minute, and that is the cultural okayness of grief. Okay, so if you think about way back in the time of, like, natives, and in working with mushrooms, I'm very familiar with this, but you would be sent to have these ceremonies in these places where you had this supportive village behind you that would support you, hold you, tend to you, take care of things for you. And you might sit with the medicine and gain a deeper healing, gain a deeper understanding, all of those things. And so it took time, and they understood on a soul level and a spiritual, energetic level what it took to process grief. Today, we don't do that. Today, it's like what? Someone dies, 2 to 3 days later, there's a funeral. And when you leave the funeral, it's generally allowed that you're going to kind of be emotional or be out of pocket for a few days. But I don't know about you guys, but I would say for sure by a couple of weeks, you probably need to be back to work. You need to be like back at the grocery store. If you've got shit that you do every day, like the gym and all the thing, like you should be back to that, or people are going to start wondering. People are going to be like, wow, like, is she really taking this harder? Or, is he ever going to come out of his house again? Like, what I tell people all the time, and I do this for people close to me that have lost someone, So by the time you have the funeral, and you guys know how, like, they always have funeral food, like food at the end of funerals and everybody eats, right? And then sometimes people will send meals to the family, neighbors will come by, and you have a shit ton of food. There's all this food at one time, right? And it's great. It's beautiful that people do that. But you know what? You are still functioning. You're still in shock. You're still putting one foot in front of the other, right? I planned the funeral. I attended. I came home. I ate. I visited with everyone. I talked to everyone. I had to clean up the kitchen. Like, I'm still on go mode, not even understanding what the hell has even happened yet. 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, that shock is going to start wearing off, and these emotions are going to start setting in, and the reality of what has just occurred is actually going to be setting in. That's actually a month to 2 months out, is actually when you're not able to get out of bed, when you're not able to function, when you're not able to go to the kitchen and fix yourself food. And that just shows, like, as a whole, as a culture, how we see this, because it's actually like, I needed the biggest help a month or two in than I needed within days. And we don't even allow our own selves that time, is the problem, right? Because other people are telling us how it should be, what it should be like. And God forbid if it's a lower level grief, like if it is losing a job, or if it is losing, a lifetime friend that betrayed you or something like that. Like, what are you doing? Why are you letting it affect you like that? There is a sense of loss in that. There's a sense of grief in that we have to allow ourselves to feel. We have to allow ourselves the time and the space to sit in it. And part of the reason that we don't is because of the cultural norms that we just don't know how. We don't know what to do, right? So what do? You develop depression and anxiety, and you get on antidepressants to try to function, to try to numb yourself enough so that you can go back to work. You might start therapy, but all of this stuff is still held in your body. You're not even, touching the root cause or touching the surface of what has actually happened. And your nervous system never had the chance to express the shock, ever. Like, it's still just held in there. So you're hyper aware of everything. You're on edge. You're irritable. You don't know what is wrong with you, when really nothing is actually wrong with you. But grief doesn't go away. It just goes deeper. Every time we avoid it, every time we ignore it, every time we numb it, and then you start adding on grief on top of the old grief that we already had, and it just drives it all deeper, which makes it even harder, right? Because you think about 20, 30 years from now, am I going to just now, 20, 30 years from now, start processing grief that happened, 20, 30 years ago? Then what are people going to think about me? That I'm just losing my shit, right? Because I never dealt with it back then. We honestly do not give our own selves the time and space that is needed to process grief. But as a society, we do not allow time or space for grief. It just doesn't happen. So what I would like to talk about now is, whenever we actually start recognizing this, and again, just the small thing that we just did of being aware, just the awareness of where you're holding this in your body and what it feels like. When we really start sitting with our grief, the goal of it is not to completely remove our grief. The goal is not to completely get rid of our grief in the same way. So what I will say is, when you're dealing with these emotions that you're holding and the nervous system reactions and things like that, it's releasing the emotions from your body. So that is letting go and releasing these emotions from your body. For the nervous system, it is retraining your nervous system. It's not like a one and done thing where you're going to release it from your nervous system and we're done. This is a retraining aspect. And so this is where we have to continuously show our nervous system it's okay. we're safe. We can sit with this. We can breathe into this. We can feel this. That is training your nervous system, which when it starts out like this, and then it just kind of starts calming and calming and calming and calming the more that you do that. But the goal with grief is actually to integrate it into you. It becomes a part of you. It is a part of you. The only difference is that we're not recognizing it as a part of us, but essentially it already is. And so the goal is to integrate grief as a part of us. Like, this is a part of myself. These are, the emotions won't be as strong anymore. You won't hold some of that, the heaviness, the denseness, and all of that from the emotions. But the loss that occurred, it does stay with us. It's not that we don't ever miss that person again. It can, like, there are times that you still physically miss that person. The difference is, like, for me now, is I don't feel this hole in me anymore. I don't feel this loss in me anymore. That heavy, dense loss of like something is missing, something is wrong. I don't feel that anymore. There are times and days and things, or a song or whatever, that will remind me of my dad, and it's a bittersweet memory, and I cherish the memory and I love the memory. Thank you, for reminding me of that, or whatever it is. But it doesn't knock me down. I have no anxiety, I have no depression over it anymore. And so think that is one of the biggest key things, is that we think that whenever we're healed from grief, that we won't ever feel sadness again, or we won't ever miss them. It's like you're 1000% okay that they're gone. And maybe you do feel that. I mean, I do feel that for the majority of the time. But again, there are those moments that you can still miss them, but it's integrated into me. It is a part of me. It is an experience that I had on a soul level, on an energetic level, and I carry that with me now. I also do not avoid it. I don't run from it if it were to still come up, which in that same way it really doesn't anymore. But if it were to come up, I would not run from it. I wouldn't numb it. I can name it now. I know exactly what it is. It's the awareness. You grow the awareness of what it feels like, where it is in your body, and you can observe it. You can observe it and know exactly what it is. And then you need to sit with yourself. Like, there's something coming up for me. There's emotion that I'm still holding here because of that. And I need to feel into that. And I need to go in and see what that still is. And so those of you that have worked with me, I call those lumps in the batter, right? Because you're going to have this batter that's smooth and it's whipped and it's going to be a beautiful cake, and then all of a sudden you hit a lump. Lumps are going to come. Lumps are going to be there, but it is how we process it, how we move through it, and how we allow it for ourselves. And honestly, awareness is 80% of that. And sometimes all it's calling for is to just be acknowledged. Just be acknowledged. Like, this is a part of me that was hurting. This is a part of me that felt trauma, sadness, betrayal, loss, whatever it is. And I just want to be seen. I want to be felt. I want to be heard. And generally, that's really all it needs. Sometimes we need to, dig a little deeper into it. But it's not about fixing. It's not about fixing grief. It's not even about getting rid of grief. It's about embracing it. It's about bringing it into you and it becoming this part, this beautiful part of you, honestly. And honoring that, and honoring what you went through, honoring your feelings, and more than anything, honoring the fact that you loved that much and you had that in your life in order to feel that much pain. And so even if it's a low level grief, so I said dream house earlier because one of mine is that I wanted to sell my home and leave Texas and move here, but I wish I could have picked up my house and brought it here. It was a lifetime of planning that led to this beautiful home that we built, and I had to leave it. And I never thought you could grieve a house. like I grieved that house. But essentially, that house was a part of me. It was a part of my dreams. It held everything that I planned for our children in their rooms and how they were going to be and how they were set up and how the Christmases were going to be every year with all of the kids coming home and the grandkids and, you know, my own space. And then I had my crafting space. And it was just all of the visions and all of the dreams that I held. And I designed every aspect of it. And that was that house. And so when I walked away from that house, that's what I was walking away from. It wasn't the sticks and the wood and the glass of the door, you know, windows and doors. Like, that's not what I was grieving. I was grieving what it represented. And so even when you have these bigger losses of the people that we love, right, our loved ones that we lose, even when you have those bigger losses like that, it's still an aspect of yourself that is enmeshed in that. That is what you are losing when you lose that person. Okay, so for my dad, for one, when you lose a parent, it is completely attached to your identity. Your parent represents where you come from, where you started, who you are at your foundation, your identity, and your whole past. When you lose a child, it's losing your future. It's your hopes and your dreams and everything that you saw for them and yourself and what was going to carry on after you. But whenever for me, whenever I lost my dad was a very large part of my life, and we were very connected, even though he fought his demons with alcohol. And even though I had a traumatic childhood, I knew at the bottom of his wounded self how much he loved me. And so, one, I was losing one of the very key people that 100% unconditionally loved me. Who on earth, even my husband at that time, I was like, who on earth is going to literally just love me for who I am now? Because he's gone. And the other side of that was the true, real connected relationship that I always hoped and dreamed that I would have with my dad, that I did not have. I had to also let that go because now he was gone, and I knew that that would never happen now. Right? So there's an aspect of you, yourself, your hopes, your dreams, whatever it represented to you, even in those higher level losses of people that we love, that is tied into it for us as well. And so that's one of the things to recognize. What is it for me? What did I lose when I lost this person? Right? Not just the physicalness of them being in our day-to-day life, but what did I lose when I lost that person? That's what you're grieving. That's what the grief is. It's not, oh, my dad is not here anymore. That's not where my grief lies. The grief is in what I made that mean. And what did that take from me? What I would like to also just reiterate is in doing spinal flow and in doing energy work, I can feel these blocks in the body that just feel like denseness. They feel like heaviness. They feel like blocks, and generally it's held up in here. And so when you can feel into this, into your own body, obviously, I know it might be a little easier if you have someone there with you, helping you. But for you, in leaving this, this call, it's feeling in and feeling, where am I holding this? What does it feel like? And then even if you use your own hand, like I do this for myself to release my own emotions and things, but I will just move around like with my eyes closed, like in a meditation. I just move around and I can't explain it. I don't know how it works, what it works, but spirit knows. I don't ask questions, but you'll hit on something. Something will stop you. Whatever that initial just stop is, stop there. And just hold that part of yourself and breathe into it, deep breaths, and feel into that. You're going to be holding something there. You're going to be storing something there. So wherever that is for you, just allow yourself to feel your own body and see where you're holding it at. What does it feel like? And then generally, when I find it for myself and I can do a couple of deep breaths like you would do in breath work, and then you exhale really strong and then breathe in and force it out, you're going to feel this start releasing. For me personally, it will start shaking and then it will release. For you, it might feel different. It might get hot. It might feel like little, pricklies or something like that. But you're going to feel something. Just start getting familiar with your own body and how you hold this, how you carry this, and allow yourself to sit with whatever is. That's the biggest thing I can say, is really connecting deep down into your body and not avoiding it. Feel the feeling, whatever the feeling was that you felt before, whether it's in your gut, whether it's in your chest. And for me, say if it was in my chest and I closed my eyes and I feel this like constriction and this tightness right here, when I think about a loss, I'm going to breathe into it. I'm going to blow out as hard as I can. And I'm literally going to, like, with all of my body, I'm going to push myself into that feeling. I'm going to push myself into that emotion, into that pain, into that constriction, into it, because I want it. I want to feel it just literally come, like I'm going into it. It's taking me over. And what that does is it allows you to fully step into whatever emotion that is. The full awareness of, this is what I'm holding. This is what is holding me back. This is where I carry it. This is what it feels like. And I'm going to move into it and I'm going to allow it to let go. And that's what I mean by the emotional releases. You can release these emotions and you can let the emotions go so that you don't carry those in your body anymore. The nervous system aspect, again, is training throughout this process of recognizing the emotions, right? You're going to feel your nervous system freak out like it does. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And you're going to feel this little, it might feel a little anxious or like butterflies or like a little panic or something like that's nervous system, okay? That's not emotion, that's nervous system. That's telling your nervous system, we're okay. I'm going to feel these emotions. We're going to go into this and I'm okay. Like, we're not going to lose our shit. I'm not going to be in bed for days. But honestly, if you need to be in bed for days, I've been there. Allow yourself to be in bed for days. If it's a grief that you've never allowed yourself to experience or feel, you probably need to go to bed for a couple of days and just let yourself rest. Let yourself sit with it. Let yourself feel the sadness. Let yourself identify, what did I lose whenever I lost this person or this thing or this place? What did I lose in me? And allow yourself to sit in it. Allow yourself to feel it. Breath work is a great way to move through and move energy. Keep it moving and not allow it to become stagnant. So if you would like for me to recommend some of those, I can, but I do breath work every now and then. I don't do breath, I used to a lot. I don't do breath work a whole lot anymore, just because I have found, like, I can quickly access it, recognize it, know it, and I can go in and just within a few breaths, I can usually move through something. But in the beginning, breath work is a great way to just move energy, move emotion out of your body, okay? Okay. I want to talk just for a minute about, I talked about kind of the things that I do personally. The things that I do with and for my clients are basically along these same lines. Whenever you come to me and you are experiencing grief, if that is your main reason for coming to me, I have a 12-week program, which again combines all of the physical, health things, along with all the emotional, mental, spiritual, all of it combined in one. And we hit some, it's very fast. It kind of contains a lot in 12 weeks, but we move through something every single week. Grief is one of those weeks, and I have a couple other weeks where we will continue to touch on it. But if you come to me and you're coming to me for grief, then I will change the program to be heavier in grief and trauma and move it up earlier. and then we'll hit on it several other times and then kind of reduce what we do in other areas. So I customize that in whatever way. I also do just one-on-one calls for people, that are just, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I would just like another opinion, or, how do you think I could better move through this? So it's just a one-off. And, I'm here for anybody that needs that as well. And then I also do retreats. And in leading up to this, I want to say that in the place that I had gotten to acceptance, and even knowing that I would not have gone back and changed, the death of our son and things like that at that time, because of how it changed me. When I went to, it was actually my second, but my biggest retreat with mushrooms, I completely went into grief, and I knew that I would, but I did not know that it would be the way that I did. I didn't know that I was still holding what I was. I can definitely say that. And so I literally released decades at that point of grief from my body at that retreat. It took me back to his death, and just the raw, just gut-wrenching pain that I was carrying in my gut, and just crying and crying and wailing and feeling, just feeling, without needing to change it, without needing to stop it, and just allowing the pain to be what it is. And that was the biggest gift that that first journey gave me, along with the other, griefs that I experienced. But I am not sure how I would have gotten there. I think that hopefully I would have, as I learned more in life. But what I can say is that I completely had to get out of my own way, and mushrooms allowed me to do that, to allow all of that to be released from my body. And if my ego and my brain was still in control and holding it all back, I'm not sure that I would have accomplished that to the level that I did. Right? Like I said, I hope I would have. Who's to really say what I would have accomplished? But what I can know is that after that, that's where I completely lost just the whole and the loss. And I felt absolutely nothing but utter gratitude, blessing, love, just sheer love for, these humans coming into my life and me losing them, and just feeling the connection that I can still have with them on a soul level, and experiencing the love that I have with them even still, and more so the love that they still have for me. And I experienced that at a retreat. So for my clients that are not at a retreat, we go through it in layers and layers and layers, and we write about it to access our true feelings and emotions, and put a name on it, put a voice on it, verbalize it, and get it somewhat out of our bodies just in that energy alone. And then we feel into it, and we work with it in our bodies and how it feels. And then again, the breath work to release it from our body, release it from our body. And then we're reminding our nervous system, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay to feel this. And so it is a process that takes months. And that's how I work with my clients. And I always want to just kind of give that little disclaimer, and how I did have the help from the mushrooms to clear it at a very drastic, deep level. But now it's to where I fully am aware and can recognize that in my own body. And when not even really grief, because like I said, I don't really carry it like that anymore, but even just an emotion, just, releasing it, feeling into it, the awareness that something's off, my nervous system is dysregulated. Because to be honest, we numb ourselves from our bodies just in general. Like, we don't know what the hell we're feeling when most people, if I ask when's the last time your nervous system felt dysregulated, they would be like, fuck, I don't know. Like, you're not paying attention to that. You're not even honing in enough and centering enough into your own body to really even recognize that. But once you do, once you train yourself to feel that and touch into that, then it just becomes habit, and it becomes like, okay, yep, I see this, I know it, I feel it. I'm gonna, I'm going to allow myself to sit with it, and then I'm going to release it, whatever the situation is. One thing let's see, let me go over. Yep. Um, the last couple of points that I want to hit on is, again, grief is about integrating it into you, as I said, and not, getting rid of it in that way that we think about. But it is a doorway. It's not a destination. And so that was on my little notes. But grief is a doorway that opens up to a much deeper knowing, a much deeper awareness. Like I said, if you know that, you've lost your dad or whatever, and like, I grieve my dad being gone. But when you open the door to grief and you really go in it and you look around and you see what's in there and you feel the room, and you can really name what is it really? What is it that I lost in that divorce, in that house, in that job? Like, what did I lose in that? That is what I'm grieving. And so if I go to talk therapy and I go to really any kind of work, and I'm trying to process grief with the intellectual knowledge of, well, yeah, my dad died. I miss my dad. Yes, you miss your dad. And what are you grieving about yourself? What are you holding about yourself that you are grieving? Because that's the root of what keeps it tied. Like, if you can imagine this invisible thread. So say, you miss their physical presence of the person that you lost, or you miss the actual, co-workers and going to work every day of the job that you lost. That's the physical representation of that. But there's an invisible thread that is tied deep within you that connects it to something else. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for, the way that we get stuck in grief and we're not able to move out is to find what that thread is connected to. And that thread is going to be tied to something that is about you. What you made it mean, what it represented, what you are holding on to for your own self and your own identity. And that's where you have to follow the thread down in, and you have to get really real. Like, that's where shit gets real. Of, why am I still here? Why is nothing working? Why am I still depressed? 20 years later, I still can't even talk about it. It's because it's not just the physical representation of what happened. We have to follow the thread down to the root. And it's no longer about the difference in grief on the physical level is like, grief on the physical level is like, why did they have to leave? Why did they have to go? Why did they have to fire me? Why did I have to sell the house? Couldn't we have thought of something else, or whatever the hell it is, right? That's how our thoughts spiral. The difference is when we are able to let go of this and really get to the root of it and release it from our bodies. Instead of, why did this have to happen? Why did they have to leave? Why did these things have to leave from my life? It becomes, thank you so much for coming. Just thank you so much for coming into my life. That's the shift. It's like, I no longer look at my dad or my son or my stepdaughter or my nephew or whatever. Like, I don't look at them and say, why did I have to lose them? It's like, holy shit, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for blessing me with that. The freaking house, right? Like, holy shit, we accomplished that. Like, we could do it again if we wanted to. We already did it once, and I got to experience that. A lot of people don't. So that's the shift in what happens when you don't continuously focus on just the physical loss and you tie it down into the thread of, what is this about me? What is it that it represented to me that I am still holding on to? And then when you're able to release that, you can see the physical in a different way, as a blessing, as, this beautiful love, this unconditional love, this beautiful journey, whatever it was for you. So those are my kind of closing words. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone that showed up here on the call. And thank you to everyone that is going to watch the replay. If you're interested in working with me, if you have questions even just about breath work that will work or whatever, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to give you more information. I want to open it for anyone that has any questions, anything that came up during the call that you felt or realized, or an aha moment, or just something maybe you didn't realize, or even something that you just want to share or have a question for me. If anybody has any. No, that's okay. All right, everyone. Well, our internet held out, so super happy for that. I'm going to try to actually put these notes that I have are actually for an ebook that I'm trying to put together on grief, and so it will kind of go a little deeper into these things, but I'm trying to put that together, so I will send an email out to you guys whenever I have that together. And thank you for showing up for yourselves and for trying to heal what is held in you. Thank you, everyone.